Now, moving on, Krishna gives an interesting example to reinforce what he has said under Karma Yoga so far. Let's see the verse. Yavan arth udpane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. A Brahmin who knows the true self has that much utility in all the Vedas as a man has in a well when there is water all around. Very interesting way of putting it. You see, one may go to a well or a pond or a river for water. But these can provide only limited amount of water. If you go to the sea, then you have limitless water in a way. Not really, but in a way, comparative. So all your needs for water will be fulfilled together and immediately. So what Krishna is trying to do here is he's trying to show the difference between limited and limitless. Small water entities like wells and ponds are limited, whereas the ocean in its comparison is limitless. So what he's trying to say here is that if you aim for the limitless, then you need not worry about the limited. Then you will not be so attached, you will not be so fixated upon the limited. People who follow the Vedic injunctions to the T, Vedavad Rataha, they are hankering after the limited results of the actions. Wealth, success, fame, heaven, etc., etc. All these are like ponds, wells, rivers. Limited. And why are they doing this? Why are they going after all this? They are going after all this in search of permanent freedom from inadequacy, permanent freedom from incompleteness. They don't want to feel incomplete. They want to feel complete. They want the limitless, but they are going to the limited. So they don't need to run after these limited objects. They only need to know the true self, how the true self is already limitless. And then all their desires will be fulfilled at once. What is their basic desire? Their basic desire is for the limitless, for completeness, and that will be fulfilled at once. This is what is being said here. He uses the word Brahmin here to indicate the wise man, the Jnani Purush, who knows the true self. Remember who is a Brahmin? The one who is Sattva Pradhan, Sattva Guna predominant. It takes a long time of following the path of Karma Yoga to achieve such a pure mind. And only after the attainment of such a mind can one receive knowledge of the absolute reality. Right? So only a pure-minded person can achieve that knowledge of the reality, and because that pure-minded person is called a Brahmin, that is why Krishna uses this word Brahmin over here. Okay? Now, so far we have talked mainly about the first step of Karma Yoga, which is about understanding the purpose of life, moksha, through self-knowledge. And we have spent a lot of time on this first step. Now let us talk briefly about the second step. Performing actions only to fulfill duties, that is dharma. What are these duties? The Gita will talk about these duties in future chapters, but I will tell you about them now so that you can make sense of where we are going. So there are two types of duties or dharma: Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. Samanya Dharma means such duties which are common to everybody, and in all times and places. Whereas Vishesha Dharma are duties specific for each and every one, different for each and every one, in their time and space. Okay, so we will look at each of them separately and understand them in detail. Let's look at Samanya Dharma first. Samanya Dharma is basically universal human values. Universal human values. For example, not hurting others, ahimsa; truthfulness, satya; compassion, kindness, forgiveness, and such values. These are the Samanya Dharmas. They are our moral duties, you may call them. And they are universal because they are valid in all times and places. Right? They were valid in Arjuna's time also, before his time also. They are valid today also. And they will always be valid. So they are the Samanya Dharmas. And Krishna will mention them later in different chapters in different places, in chapter 13, in chapter 16, among many other places. There are a few important ideas that we should understand about Samanya Dharma. Firstly, Samanya Dharma, how do we know about Samanya Dharma? Because we naturally sense these duties. These duties are naturally sensed by everybody. We all have an innate, inbuilt sense of right and wrong, just and unjust, fair and unfair, which informs us about Samanya Dharma. This is what Vedanta and the Gita believe. Krishna will say this in chapter 7. And actually, without this innate moral sense, our freedom to choose would be a very faulty creation. The freedom of choice has been given to us along with this sense of dharma, along with this sense of right and wrong, to guide our choices. Okay? And this is not just what the Vedanta believes in or the Gita believes in. Modern research in psychology also points towards the same idea. Just as we can sense our own pleasure and pain, the brain has the capacity to mirror the pleasure and pain of others and empathize with them. And therefore, we sense when we are hurting someone or causing someone some pain, and immediately there is something in us that tells us that we should not do it. Because we don't want others to be doing it to us. They are calling it mirror neurons. You may call it conscience. Researchers at Yale University have done experiments with newborn babies to show that there is an innate moral sense, because even newborn babies can judge good from bad, right from wrong. I will leave a link to the research in the description below and you can go through it. Basically, what we have to remember is that Samanya Dharma is sensed by everybody in all times and places, and that is why they are universal in nature. Secondly, while the values are universal, they may be achieved through different ways in different situations. This is very important to understand. For example, in some situations, use of physical force may become necessary in the interest of society, as in case of a dictator or a psychopathic killer or a rapist. Physical force may become necessary to subdue such a person in the interest of all. Not using physical force would actually hurt society in these cases. So by using physical force, you are ensuring that society is not hurt. So you are ensuring the value of ahimsa. The value of ahimsa remains intact, but it has been achieved differently. So ahimsa, don't think that ahimsa simply means not using physical force. It has to be understood in more depth. Okay, so this is a very important idea to understand about Samanya Dharma. And Gita will later talk about it when it will define Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic actions in chapter 18. We have already talked about it briefly in a previous video. What are these three approaches to action? Tamasic is deluded actions without considering right and wrong. Complete ignorance regarding how the action will affect others or your own self. That is tamasic approach, which has to be avoided. Then comes the Rajasic approach, which is for the fulfillment of one's own desires, according to one's own likes and dislikes. One focuses on how I will benefit from it, how I will profit from it. These are Rajasic. This is the Rajasic approach to actions, which is very common, which we all do in our life. But we have to try to rise even above it. Sattvic, which is pure for the fulfillment of duty only. And what is duty? What is dharma? Ensuring the well-being of all for the greater good. So we have to apply the idea of sattvic actions when we are thinking about, performing our duties. Thirdly, at the heart of all these values, all the various universal human values that you can think of, there is the same idea, the idea of oneness with all beings. Think about it. When you try not to hurt others, when you try to be kind to others, when you make sure you are truthful and don't misrepresent facts, then you're acting in oneness with all beings. Right? It may cause you some inconvenience at times, but you choose to look beyond your notion of a limited self. Okay? And in this way, by following Samanya Dharma, abiding by Samanya Dharma in all situations, you rise out of your limited sense of self and imbibe oneness with all beings. That's the whole point here. Okay. Now let's talk about Vishesha Dharma. Vishesha Dharma means duties which are not universal but specific to every individual and specific to a particular time and place. It covers all kinds of duties that we have towards our family, the community in which we live, the organization we work with, the country, and all the other such entities to which we are connected. Why do we have these duties? You may ask. We have these duties because we are consumers of what these entities provide. We cannot survive a single day without these entities. Our life as an individual is dependent upon them. We coexist. So we want everybody, the nation, the community, the family, to be doing their duties and providing you with everything. Naturally, you have some duties towards these entities. Regarding the family, you may have duties like providing for them financially or taking care of them. Regarding the local community, you may have certain responsibilities like helping out someone in need, right? Because you would want someone to come to your help when you need it. In terms of country, it's about maintaining civic sense. So all these basic duties that we are all aware of. And in following these duties, the essential idea is the same: oneness. One has to look beyond one's personal needs and desires, one's personal likes and dislikes, and do what needs to be done for these entities. In the Vedic tradition, duties were defined according to the Varna Ashram system, the Varna Vyavastha, which also came under Vishesha Dharma. We talked about the Varna Vyavastha in a previous video. The duties of each of the four Varnas were defined according to their inner nature, Swabhava, and each had to follow those duties with a sattvic attitude, give back to society, that was the attitude, do something for society, not thinking just about your own self. And that is how each one of the four Varnas were supposed to grow, purify their mind. That was the idea. And those duties also fell under Vishesha Dharma. But in the current scenario, since we don't follow Varna system, we have to make sure that in our own way, we are acting responsibly. Whatever job we do, or business we do, or professions we have to carry it out responsibly. Every job, every profession has certain ethics. So following those ethics. In today's times, we find people ignoring all the ethics of professions and just making money. Whether it be doctors or lawyers or politicians or anybody. Everybody is just running after money, their personal desires, their image and status, complete disregard to their duties, their dharma. So that is not what a Karmayogi can do. As a Karmayogi, it is necessary that you always abide by the duties of your profession. Whatever knowledge you have, or talents you have, or resources you have, use them responsibly. Use them to make a positive contribution to society, not to harm the society. And do so not for achieving punya or for achieving name and fame, but because it is your duty. Because it is what needs to be done through you. Only then can this work. So these are the duties that we must act upon. And now let's move on to the next verse, which is perhaps the most famous verse of the Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karmafal heturbhu mate sangostu karmani. Right? We have all heard of this verse. You have right over actions only, not ever over the results. Don't be the cause of the result. Neither be attached to inaction. Now, till the previous verse, it may have seemed that Krishna is saying, don't do anything, just devote yourself to knowledge, because everything is limited, so what's the point of doing anything? But if you were a careful listener, you would have noticed that he did not say that. He did not say give up actions. He only asked us to change our approach towards actions. Actions are necessary. They are necessary to make the mind ready for knowledge. Shankara writes in the introduction to this verse that before one attains the fitness for knowledge, actions have to be undertaken even though they have limited utility, like the well or the pond, etc. Therefore, for someone who is not ready for knowledge, he must engage in actions with a certain attitude to become eligible for knowledge. Here Krishna is saying, Karmani eva adhikar aste. Only on actions do you have the right. Adhikar means right. Arjuna does not have the right over knowledge at present because his mind is not ready. He is not an adhikari of knowledge. This word adhikari was used in the sense of eligibility also. So Arjuna was not eligible for knowledge at present because his mind was not prepared. At present, he was only eligible for actions. He was only adhikari of actions. So that is the first layer of meaning, so to say, of this first statement, that karmani eva adhikar aste. Karmani eva adhikar aste means that you have right over actions only as opposed to knowledge. Okay? I hope this is clear. So see, nobody who must have told you about this verse would have told you about this layer of meaning, and Shankara writes about it. But now let's look at the other layer of meaning. If we talk about actions, then there are two main aspects of the action. Choice of action and result of action. Every action has these two aspects for sure. There is a choice and there is a result, right? An individual has the right only over the choice, not the result. This is the other layer of meaning. When I do something, I can choose what to do and how to do it. But I can never choose what the result would be. Can I? I cannot. If I could, I would always choose a result that I like. So what Krishna is saying here is that an individual has the right, or you can say control, over choice of action, but never over the results. So this is just a statement of fact, right? Isn't this just a fact of life? Generally, people interpret this statement as a prescriptive statement. Think about action, not the result. This is how they interpret it. But it is not so simplistic. It has to be understood first and foremost as a statement of fact. It is a fact that we can only choose what to do, what not to do, but we cannot choose what the result will be. Who chooses the result? Ishvara. Ishvara, God, through the laws of nature. Ishvara, which is manifest as all these complex laws of nature, which are working so intelligently, so orderly. These laws of nature bring the result to you. Suppose I choose to jump out of the window. What will happen? Ishvara's law of gravity will work and I will fall. After jumping out the window, after choosing to jump outside the window, can I choose to fly instead of falling? I cannot. I can only choose whether to jump out of the window or not. And the moment I make this choice, the result is determined by the laws. Okay? So in life also, we make choices. We make choices every single day. Where to go, whom to meet, what to do, what to say, etc., etc. We make so many choices every day. And we have a great amount of control over these choices. But what happens after that is not in our control. There are so many variables in play that we don't even know of. And the result is a product of all those variables. The result is brought to you when all those variables are in play and all these laws are working in a certain manner. Alright? So we will continue with this verse in the next video. Okay, there is much more to be seen in this verse. We will continue in the next video.